Okay, sorry about we're gonna call that the first video, so part one. This is part two of the Hitchy Honda. I'm back in the menu. We're still on the 4-channel scope, going through scope captures I had. You saw in part one the current, the current that shouldn't have been on the ignition, on the fuel injector current ramp, and how all 4 injectors were affected by it, and that I disconnected one injector at a time, and it didn't make the problem go away. So now I'm going to take a capture of me power braking the car in that situation. We'll see. I believe I got 4 injectors on the screen, and we're going to see wider pulse widths because there's a load on the car, but nonetheless, we're going to see if the double hitch is still there and what we got to do about it. So anyway, just hopefully this will cooperate. And okay. Okay. Alrighty. So this is me power braking the car, and as you can see, as we go through the capture, let's see. Okay, we still got double hitches. You can see them. You can see them in blue, you can see them in red, you can see them in yellow. Let's see if we can get one in green. And not yet in green, but you know it's there. And let's tighten up our time. Go through a different section under a load. Funny, the green guy doesn't want to. I thought I had her. Okay. So okay, there's the green guy right there. You can see that double hitch. This is a very intermittent. See, that's the difficulty. This is a very intermittent problem. That's where a scope would really come in. Would even challenge you with a scope, something like this. The key is get on the right signals. There's our green double hitch. Basically, all 4 injectors will double hitch at one time or another, affecting the way this thing runs. So right here, I had been probably 3 hours into this car. It was late in the day. I was hungry, kind of maybe 4:30ish, and in the process of disconnecting stuff on this setup, I can tell you that I kind of moved some wires, and at the time I did not know what I moved. But basically, when I got in the car to make another capture, I didn't feel the symptoms. Not what I saw on the scope. The drivability problem was gone. And then I said something happened, a wire got hit or rubbed, and the thing sort of temporarily fixed itself. So now I'll show you the capture. I'm about to go home, and I'm about to say to myself, next time if this acts up, I'm going to bring an 8-channel scope because I want to look at more signals. So basically, this is when the car sort of is temporarily fixed. And I'm going to call this the, I have a name for it. Let's see. This is still on the 8th, and this would be the final capture of the 8th. And I'm driving home, and I say to myself, it feels good, but I want to scope it. I want to get on the road, so I pull off to another area. I pull off to a park by my house, and this is what I saw. I put an amp. All I did was have one signal. I had the amp clamp on the fuel injectors because I would see the symptom right in that capture. I only needed 1 channel. So this is what it looks like with just the amp clamp on the fuel injectors. As you can see on your schematic, you see where it has like a purple amp clamp logo up there. That's where it was. And here we are now. And this is my ride home. That's D-cell. That's I'm coming up. I live on a hill, so I was coming up the hill, and I had to give it some beans to get up the hill, and it was smooth as silk. And I said, wow, this problem. There we go. See, that's all good. You see the evenness in that? You can see the good, we got a good, no anomaly, no interloper. Everything is as it should. I got into the throttle a little bit here because I come up on a hill. Everything's looking good. And I say, oh my God, this thing sort of fixed itself. So I probably have a rubbing wire. I got 7 milliseconds, so that's a little off idle. That's under load. That's pulling into the back of my house where I park. That's some more, basically the problem has seemed to disappear. So I said, this is an intermittence deal. We probably have a wire rubbing or something. There's 10 milliseconds. That's climbing the hill. That's under load, basically. And then I get up to, let me get here, see if I can get any more. I'm just looking at the milliseconds, which makes sense. I mean, the computer's got control of the injection. It's about 9 milliseconds there. And basically, I pull up and I park and I shut the car off. I have to decel. There's my decel right there. Obviously, they fuel cut on decel, which is normal. I'm probably an idle pulse width there. And basically, I park the car and I say, well, what am I going to do about this? But if you notice in my video archives, I came up with a video called Using a Scope as a Multi-Channel Ohm Meter. I went through, as you can see in that video, this case study was the impetus for making up that video. I decided to use the scope in a way where I could look for a bleed over in any of the wires. I did not see any. I could swear that some wire was bleeding over. There was some insulation that was compromised. And so I left it at that. And yesterday, which was the 29th, I was leaving my house to go into town, and I started to feel the symptom. So I immediately went to my storage facility to get my tools, to get my 8-channel scope and start looking at it. So I'm in the storage facility with the 8-channel scope, and it's yesterday the 29th, and I will go back into those captures and we'll move along chronologically as I went. And Hook has a hookup now. We got an 8-channel hookup now, so I will explain each channel. We are the 29th, and we got the Hitchy Honda. It's all chronological. We'll go through everything. And let me start by clicking on the Hitchy Honda, and then we can look at your screen, and then look at your schematic that you made a copy of, and things will start to make sense. The first capture you're going to see is just like it is on the illustration, on the schematic that you copied. And we're going to take a look. I basically wanted all 4 injectors, and I wanted all 4 ignition coil triggers to see if I could see anything odd in there, see if ignition was bleeding over. There's something I always wouldn't let ignition get off the hook. I just the way I thought it was a wire bleed through or something. But anyway, here we go. This is running the car. I guess I missed something. Okay, here we go. We got something now. All right, now this is we're at long time division. We're at 1 second per division. Let's get the injectors and the ignition coil triggers down. It'll make more sense once I open it up. We're going to see 4 fuel injectors. Let's get the injectors, and we're going to line them up. So I think it looks a little better when we line them up. And we'll kind of zoom in, and we'll see. We got the 4 injectors, as you on your illustration. We got B on injector 1, A on injector 1, B on injector 2, C on injector 3 and 4, and yellow D on injector 4. And then our ignition triggers is purple on ignition coil 1, gray on ignition coil 2, orange on ignition coil 3, and burgundy on ignition coil 4. So here we go. Let's zoom in, and we can see, and our little friend is back. It looks like yep, the double hitch is back, as you can see right here. Our buddy's back, and now we got to deal with it. And we do have 8 channels now, so we got a better arsenal to deal with it. And I will show you all the captures I did. You can see where in this capture alone, we got on 3 of the injectors are getting affected by the double hitch. The green, the yellow, the blue, and not the red, but the red guy eventually will feel it. Let me just go down the line, and I'll see right here. our ignition is unscathed. Our ignition looks good. All our triggers are good. I'll line them up, and you can see the gray, the burgundy, the purple, and the orange are all good. They're not bleeding over. They all look nice and square. They're not giving up any voltage or loading anything. We can see them there. Those are our 4 ignitions. They are good. So we're back to our situation. And let's see what this looks like. Basically, we're still double hitching. And now I still got to think about what, my game plan is. I still got the same symptom. The problem is back. It had gone away from almost like, from the 8th to the 29th, maybe 2.5 weeks, but it's back. So I got to think about what's happening here. So my next capture, yesterday, the 29th, you just saw the 4 injectors and the 4 ignition triggers. And let's see what I did next. Sometimes I have to use this thing to remind myself. This is the 29th now. And we got the Hitchy Honda, and let me refresh on at the 9:22 a.m. capture. Once I see it, I'll know what it is, and I'll explain to you guys what each channel's hooked to, because it was a lot of capturing, a lot of recording, and it'll make more sense when you look at it. So that was the first. You saw 4 injectors and your 4 ignition triggers, and this next capture. I most likely went to the speed signals. Let's see what it comes up with. I'll explain each one. Okay, what do we got here? Or is this deja vu all over again, as Yogi Berra would say? Let's see. Okay, nothing's different. So this is basically the same as the first capture. All right, this is do we see any issues? Nonetheless, it's yeah, we got a double hitch. So basically, I'm sorry, this was let me get back to the file and open the file and get to another capture, which was obviously that I want on different signals, so we can see other things. I had the 120 slow crank. Okay, let's see what that is. Slow crank. This is where it's starting to get progressively worse, where it's almost, yeah, I did have a no crank, and I'll show you that. A no start complete, that's down the line, but I will show you that. And let's get on to this next capture. This was when it's starting to take a long time to start. And there's something interesting I want you to see here that you take note of. It's kind of cool. Okay. Okay. What I got here was a slow crank. Let me go back to the first capture. Okay, right here is where it's slow cranking. What do I got? I got voltage. I got a crank signal. Or I got a cam signal. I got 2 cam signals and a crank signal. Right there. And so let's go to the next capture. It's slow cranking, and I'll key in on here. See what we got. Okay. I got the injectors. And the crank signal. And now I've also started a current ramp back on the injectors. So I've got I guess I got all 4 injectors, the voltage spikes of the injectors, and I got the crank signal right here. That's crank. No, that's a cam signal, the one I'm moving. That's the current ramp of the that's the current ramp of the injectors, and you could see that anomaly, that double hitch right there, and you could see the it affecting the injector voltage. Look at this right here. Take note of that right here. That's a very short pulse width. I'm going to measure that. Okay, that's 2 milliseconds. That's for a cranking car. That's really short. So that I definitely attribute my slow cranking to that. 2 milliseconds cranking is a very, very short pulse. Even though we get a long one later, but it's very much, it's out of control. It's not in control. Something's amuck, obviously, and finally got it started, and possibly it's stalled there. There is a possibility. I don't quite remember. We can see the crank kind of coming down, the cam signal spinning down. I might have shut it off. Nonetheless, you can see our injectors. They still have their kind of their double hitch, you know, which is affecting red and green at the time. But nonetheless, it's still, this was a slow. Problem is getting progressively worse, and you can see it right there. The double hitch. That was, you know, I saw that 3 weeks ago, and now it came back. But nonetheless, let me go to the next capture, and we're starting to come to the end of the line to see what transpired, and then I'll do a live running thing and it'll kind of make some sense. It is the 29th, and let me see. I have injector cutting out. Okay, I'll go to injector cutting out. This is where it's getting worse. And you can see it's getting almost. It was almost going to leave me stalled there, and I had to deal with it. But nonetheless, we've been there, and you just you deal with it. So this is an injector cutting out, and it's pretty obvious on the capture as we look at this. Okay. Okay, I'll go back to the first capture, and then we'll roll through the buffer, and we'll look at each signal. Okay, so it's we're starting here, and let's go to the second one. Okay, right here you can see a gap, see a pretty good gap in the injector. So we know we're having an injector that's cutting out. Our cam signals look good. Our crank signal looks good. Let's see this. The gray guy looks good. The burgundy guy looks. No, actually, that is our current ramping of the injectors. There's our crank sensor, and there's our cam sensor. So let's look at that. That crank looks good. It always did throughout this case study. Our cam sensor looked good. Okay, I want to tell you about green. Green is I switched the leads, and I went to the power feed of the injectors to make sure they weren't losing power. So that's our green guy. Our red guy is power feed. I'm going to say it was power feed to the crank sensor, because that needs power to work, and that's a high priority. I thought that might have been going away, but that remains strong. So we know we got injectors cutting out, and we can see it. It's real evident right here. Here's a 2 crankshaft revolutions. That's definitely skipping a beat. There's a big gap here. That'll make a car buck right there. That's a kind of a long time. It's just missing a shot of fuel. So nonetheless, you can see that, and we can see our cam crank remain good. Our green and our red are power feeds at injectors and ignition coils or crank sensor. So let me go to another file, and at this time, I had the check engine light came on, and I said to myself, I never disconnected anything yesterday, the 29th. I had disconnected a bunch of stuff back on the 8th, but I said the money light come on, and I put the scanner on it, and I started to see a code, and basically I saw a code for communication, which I dealt with. Then I saw a map sensor code. So I said, all right, let me clear it. And so then I cleared it, turned the key back on, and it recoded. So I said, this is something. I got to look at this. But before I show you that, I want to have one more capture. This is a no start. This is when it became a complete crank but won't start. Now, because there's something I think we can learn from in this capture. I got a no start, and when I was experiencing no start, I had about 4 seconds of crank no start. And we know with the scope that's an eternity. There's a lot of information we can get in that window of time. So I pulled the key back and just shut it off. And I knew I had it captured, and I knew we'll analyze it. I want to take a look at something. This is a crank no start. There's no running in this situation, but let's look what we have and let's look what we don't have. Okay. All right, this is crank no start. I'll just allocate this screen to that. We have a cam sensor here. That's one cam sensor. We have a crank sensor here. That's a crank sensor, looking right here. We have power. Green guy is our power feed to something. It's either the injectors, the coil, or it's a hot feed to fuel, ignition, or crank sensor. Our red guy, or our current ramp, what is this orange guy here? That's a current ramp to the, I finally got out the current ramp, and I current ramp ignition coils. You know, that's the red, that's the orange guy. I put a fuse buddy inside the car, and that looks good. The ignition is strong. Take a look. I'm going to isolate something and look at the injector pulse right here. This is a crank no start. So we have, let me get other guys out of here so we can just look, concentrate on two channels. Basically yellow, which is the fuel injector, and the current ramp. Look at our current ramp on burgundy and motor course. That's the current ramp for the injectors. Okay, this is a crank but no start. All right, look at that. Look at this one here. I could have caught my eye. Another little guy. Look at this one. Look at this one here. You can see this one. Let's measure the pulse width of this one. That's an injector pulse width. Let's see what that is, okay? That's 7 milliseconds, okay? That's probably a pretty good, but let's measure this guy, okay? And see what that is. This is crank no start, all right? That's 1.8 milliseconds. That's a short pulse width for a cranking car. Even though I'm 75 degrees in San Diego, that's a really short pulse width. So now all the pieces of the puzzle are starting to come together. And basically what happens is I went to the map sensor and I noticed a wire that was copping a ride to ground. And I will show you right here. There's the map sensor, okay? And this blue wire here was copping a ride to ground. You can see it. Let me get pulled back. Okay, right there. Obviously, I shot myself in the foot, but for the sake of learning, you have to watch yourself when you roll like this. But anyway, it was so instantaneous that this thing was going to ground every now and then, and it probably did that on March 8th too. But it I didn't figure it out then. And then in the process of moving wires around, because I had the injectors all disconnected right here. You can see when I disconnected, I probably brushed this wire and I pulled it away from ground. That's what temporarily fixed it back on the 8th. So with all that said and done, I'm going to do a live capture, and I want to try to get you guys so we can learn. I'm going to recreate the problem to see if it looks identical to what we've been looking at for the last hour. So here we go. Let me set the scope up live. I'm all hooked in. Let's hope setup time ain't too bad, but nonetheless, I will tell you each channel what I'm on, and we'll get to the scope and take a look at that, and we will okay. you probably, if you, I'm in a stall here, go ahead 30 seconds in the video and get the, until you see some action. You don't have to just wait and watch this white screen. I'll deal with that. And find it. Sometimes you do that when you're watching a video, but I'm live now, but you won't be when you're watching it. So, you know, pan ahead 30, 40 seconds. And I hope you don't see a white screen. Anyway, we're getting there. Okay. Okay. I guess you can watch me set the scope. I want to go to about 200 milliseconds. I am attenuating the first 4 channels on this scope because it is the Pico 4823 and it has to have attenuation. I am times 10. I will go to 50 volts on blue, and I'll go down the line and set her up, and then we'll see that there's 50 there. Now I go to red, same thing, times 10. Don't forget your attenuation if you roll with a Pico 8 channel, times 50. The 4425 can handle 200 volts. You don't have to attenuate as much, but you still do if you're dealing with ignition flyback voltage. See, I'm talking too much. I can't multitask. Okay, times 10. And we go to 50 on the injector. We got one more injector to deal with. That's yellow. That is times 10. Times 10, and then 50. 50 volts. Purple is the current ramp of the fuel injector. So it's a 30 amp clamp. I will set it to 2 amps. It's a 30 amp Pico clamp. Really good clamp, by the way. Real sensitive down to 5 milliamps. Let me go to 2 amps because I'm looking at fuel injectors. The F is a crank signal, I believe. Let me go to 10 volts. I can't go wrong with 10. G is a TPS. I will go to, let me go to 5 because I can't go wrong with 5. And then the big boy is the map, the smoking gun on channel H for, and we'll see. Let's go to 5 volts and get it running and see what we got. We'll run it and see what normal running looks like, and then we'll stop the scope. You learn this. You go down with the brown, as they say. It's I'm not sorry. Down with the burgundy. Okay. Okay. All right, let me get it running and we'll make some adjustments to what we got. I'll start the car. Yeah, we're running across the screen. Let's get the screen set up a little better. Go to 5 amps on that. So orange is the TPS. Got a little latency going on here. Be an issue. Everything's running slow. We got 4 fuel injectors up top. Latency. Okay. Go to I'll stop the scope. Let me just go to a longer time base. Okay. Stop the scope, we'll look at it. What do we notice? The injectors look good. We don't see that anomaly anymore. The crank looks good. The injectors look good. There's no double hitching going on. Get the green guy down. Okay. Let me stretch my. I'm fickle about my current clamp. I like to make. Okay, we're still running. Let's go back to a normal. I'm gonna snap the throttle a few times. I'm gonna see the action reaction. Okay, I'll stop that. We'll analyze it. Okay, we'll go back. This is some throttle. We can see we're good on the map and the TPS going up. The burgundy is right here is the map. Okay, we can see our pulse width increase. Everything's going up. Oh, we still got our double hitch. Okay, let's see what's happening. Okay. Okay, that may be a strategy, okay? That's a strategy with load, okay? And I want to call that normal. What we dealt with for the last hour is not normal. That could be a strategy. So I'm going to go back to idle and see, I'm going to every now and then ground out the map sensor and see what happens, to see if it will look like our original symptom. But the double hitch, when I goosed it, was more strategy. Right now we're 200 milliseconds per division. We're running across the screen. And watch when I just every now and then I kiss ground with that map sensor. Okay, so what I did, I'm gonna shut the car off and we'll analyze it, and that should be it. Okay, we got 10 screens. Let's go back to the first one and tape an eye on the map sensor. Keep an eye on channel H, the burgundy, as we roll through this buffer. I'm going to kind of isolate that so it sticks out. We'll get that burgundy guy kind of here, so we're not there it is right there. That's our burgundy. That's our map sensor. So we're going down the road. Okay, now we got action. That's what's happening. We got every now and then we're pulling to ground. Let's see if that has effect on injectors. It may not. I can't. Okay, any of the fuel injectors. Okay, we got double hitched on green. You could see the effect of that map sensor going to ground and what it does to the injectors. So right there and there. Let's go again. See what happens. We got more action going on. The map sensor is every now and then, like it was when it was symptomatic initially. Okay, we got our green guy going to ground, our blue guy double hitching, our green guy double hitching, with the map going south. It's so, I don't want to use the word random, but you know, look, it depends on what injector is ready for fire, as it seems the one it's going to affect. Let's go to here and see if anybody who gets affected. Okay, map going to ground right here. Double hitch on yellow. Okay, we know all injectors would double hitch had they been with this problem. So nonetheless, now we're back to normal, and let's see if our double hitching is gone away. Our map is back to normal. Let's look at our map voltage. Honda's usually idle about, okay, that's about a volt there. That's idling. Our injectors look good. They're not double hitching. So we can go to one more capture, and then we're going to end this thing. This was a two-parter called the Hitchy Honda, but nonetheless, our map is looking good. One little money shot. If we go here, we could look at a vacuum waveform. I just thought I'd show you that while we have time, and nonetheless, that's a vacuum wave. I filtered it. Right, okay, and I'll stretch it. And that is a vacuum waveform. I thought I'd end it with that note, since never let a good, basically that's a vacuum waveform, which is coming from the map sensor. Anyway, gonna sign off. Remember, inputs are super important. Scan tool and scope, work them in harmony. I guess you gotta, with a scope, you gotta pick your channels. Every input's important. As you looked on the your schematic, you know in the lower right of the schematic, you see the crank, the two cams, the map, the TPS, temps, knock sensors, speed sensors, EGR position sensors. All that stuff is important. Some more important than others. Anyway, thank you for watching, and all the best.